Join the conversation and welcome to Inside Voice.
Hello, friends, and welcome to Inside Voice. Well, if you're anything like me and have enjoyed many years of music and art that has come from contemporary Christian music artists like my guest today, you might have wondered what's life like for these people behind the scenes? What are their hearts like? Where does this wellspring of music come from? Well, I think you're in for a real treat today. My guests are Greg and Janna Long. They make up half of the three-time Grammy-nominated American Music Award-winning foursome called Avalon, and as well as being worship leaders for churches throughout the country. Their passion is ushering people into the presence of Jesus Christ and allowing him to do what only he can do. They live just north of Houston, Texas. They have three daughters, three cats, a cat, and even, I've heard, possibly a few chickens. Is that correct?
Hey,
Greg and
Brenda.
Janna, thank you.
So good to
Hi.
be
with
with
us.
you.
You, you
have a
guys
few
are
animals.
awesome. You
Well,
do.
thank you, Brenda. We have had chickens. Now that is true, and we would post about it on social media. You know, here we are, all feeding the chickens, and it's sort of a what do you call it, melodramatic story because our kids they were just baby chicks when we had them, and they grew up and finally laid eggs. We would go get the eggs, and we don't live in the country. We got about a half an acre. You know, is
Oh,
all.
wow.
But
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
built a chicken coop with the help of a friend of mine, and we would go get these eggs, and it was just a wonderful thing. And then one day we were gone.
Thankfully.
We came home, and the chickens were kind of gone and had been became food for other animals in the area.
Oh,
Not sure what
no.
happened.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, and God rest their little chicken souls.
They're in a
Yeah.
better
No.
place.
They're probably, and we all dream of having chickens. And Paul and I actually have footage of my husband cleaning out the chicken coops on a farm in Tennessee just recently, last week. And we had a great time. Yeah, he really was all in. So, but listen, I want to get to it. You guys are so awesome. I really love and appreciate your hearts. You're gorgeous, beautiful people. But I want people to see the beauty that resonates on the inside of you, your hearts for family, for community, and for worship, and just life. You seem to keep very grounded. I mean, you've performed in the length of your career before thousands and thousands of people, and yet you keep a really grounded disposition and attitude toward life. And I'd like you to speak into something that I think is very important right now, especially as we're all kind of broken apart with having just come through 2 years of a pandemic and church systems changing. I mean, everything's reinventing, right? It's having to really shift and move. Tell us about how worship relates to community and family as a lifestyle. What does that side of worship look like to you? And how do you bring that to the platform?
I love what you said, honey. A couple weeks ago, we were in Nashville working on this new record for Avalon, new worship record, and you said it's really a part of warfare. You know, the Bible says we don't wrestle
Mm,
against flesh and blood. A lot of times, that's what we see, and so that's what we think is going on. Oh, I'm dealing with this, so this is what the issue is. But we're really
mm,
battling against flesh and blood. You remember saying that?
Well, I think worship it can change the atmosphere, whatever's going on. And
yeah.
when you look back, and the Bible says that David encouraged himself in the Lord. And what I was saying that day was sometimes that's all you have. Whatever you're going
Yeah.
through, it's so intense and it's so personal. And sometimes that's really all you can do. Maybe you don't have other people in your life encouraging you at the moment, or maybe you do, but you are just, unreachable, for whatever reason. And to be able to say, you know what, I'm gonna live. I'm gonna get through this. Joy is gonna come in the morning. There's a song that we recorded, where it says, "Dry bones hear the word of the Lord." It's a song called "Rattle" that we get to sing.
Mm, love
There are
that.
those times where you have to say to yourself, get up, stand up, you're going to live, you're going to live and not die, and joy is going to come in the
Mm,
morning, and, all of these things. And so I think absolutely it's a battle that goes on, and sometimes worship is the only thing that can transform the atmosphere and take you from a place of being despondent and in despair to, God's got me, and tomorrow's a new day, and he's going to bring something good out of this, and that's not always
Yeah.
easy.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
remember, Brenda, this is the part that I think I can forget about, and a lot of us can. We know who wins. It's not a
Right.
battle that we're going to lose. I mean,
Right.
how amazing is it to go? When you're worshiping the Lord, and it helps you to remember this. Like, hey, God already won. 3 days after his death, he rose from the dead. The battle's already. I just got to get up and fight. And so sometimes entering into worship can remind us of who we
Yes.
serve. He is all powerful. He has already won. I've just got to do my part. And worship can bring us into the presence of the Lord, where everything can become a whole lot more clear. And so we love it. We're somebody asked this last week, what would you do if you just had all the money and you didn't have to worry about budget and this job and that job? And I said, I'm so sorry. I think I would do the same thing. We love what
Wow.
we do. Leading people in worship
Yeah.
is like, it's the greatest thing in the world for us. And it's because I think it's what God's called us to do and who he's called us to be.
I agree with you 100%. And, I look back even on my own dark times in the past and how it was worship. And I'm talking worship that happened like in my closet, the private stuff that I love community worship. I mean, that's so powerful, but there is something about worshiping in your own private sanctuary before you and the Lord. And that can come out in the sound of a song. For most people, for me it does, and for you it does, obviously. But the scriptures talk about even those guttural cries, and I think that we have, like you said, Jesus won that battle for us. He won this war and has given us the gift so that we can be more than conquerors. But we tend to forget that he's won it, because I think we're still holding on to things like materialism and our agendas, and we want things to work out our way. But oftentimes his process in our lives does not look the way we want it to. And he's so God is into the process and what's happening there more than the end goal that we want to reach, right?
So
So
true.
worship is our weapon, and it's how we fight our battles. And it makes me think about, Greg, this song that I didn't realize you were a part of writing, and it was the song "Mercy Said No." And years ago, I can remember how that song it hit me in the heart. I mean, and it made me just weep before the Lord. I want to thank you for that. I mean, that
My word.
and you sing it so well. Both of you have the most incredible voices. Janna, I remember listening to your stuff, and I was on a worship team, and one of those kind of power singers, but there is no voice like yours. I'm telling you.
Thank you.
What an inspiration you two are together. I love the synergy that you have together, and the fact that you understand worship as more than just a performance, and you see the importance of it just as a lifestyle. Go ahead.
Let me speak this, Brenda, to men, because Jan and I will tell you, we did Avalon, we did all Women of Faith conferences a few years ago. There is no better audience than a female audience to lead worship in, right? Because I think a lot of times females have sometimes a better time expressing themselves with what they're feeling or whatever. And men, sometimes we deal with this. And when it comes to the worship part of church, or even what you're talking about, Brenda, being at home, we don't know. We just shut it down and go, let somebody else do that. I'm telling you guys, what Brenda just talked about is going to be true for you. And that is to actually, even when make sure nobody's around, because it may be embarrassing for you, but say those things out loud. Make that joyful noise. God, I worship you today. I glorify you today. If it's the word of a song, if it's the words of a song that worthy is the Lamb who was slain. Holy, holy is he. Whatever it is, guys, you can do this. And I promise, like my wife said, it will change the atmosphere, not just in the room, but in your own mind, in your own heart. So guys, this is for you. You can do it.
Yeah. Well, I think you really struck something there that's a real poignant truth, because we've been conditioned, especially men, I think, in our culture, have been conditioned to believe that crying or being vulnerable is a weakness. And so, during the worship, they're looking around, and they don't tend to engage even in most music, even if it's playing on the radio. It's just kind of, they're going along with the beat of it. And I'm a lyricist, so I love to think about, what's this song saying to me? And maybe that's why women, we are very sensitive. But I love that encouragement that you gave to men. And I think that in this culture, especially, I mean, this world is hurting. And, we've come through so much in the last couple of years, and it just continues to seem to mount. And now we're watching as Russia has invaded Ukraine. And what's happening is Christians are on the uprise in those cultures where they're being they're facing persecution. They're facing the threat of losing their country. And I think, how spoiled we are sometimes, and how we get a little bit jaded, in the, when we start thinking about like the product of music, and we forget to connect that God gave us music as a gift, and we forget to connect with what he is saying, and to be able to just bask in his presence and be vulnerable. Can you speak to that vulnerability, Janna? I mean, you're a beautiful woman that many people would probably want to place on a little pedestal and say, well, she has probably never experienced pain in her life. But listen, you're raising 3 daughters. You've been able to have a ministry together with your husband. I know that there's challenges that can come, especially when you're doing kingdom work. Can you speak to the importance of being vulnerable, or maintaining our vulnerability when we relate to other people, and being transparent like Christ is?
Someone's, and maybe it's been said by numerous people, but if you want to impress people, tell them the things you've done, your accolades, your successes. If you want to, really reach them and be able to touch them, then tell them the things that you've struggled with, which I think is so true. It's been a tough couple of years for all of us. Before COVID, we lost my dad. He had a long battle with dementia, and went through a lot of struggles towards the end. And of course, then walking through COVID, having 3 daughters. I think we're all still figuring out the effect the pandemic's had on all of us, but especially young kids, teenagers. I have 2 teens and a tween, all girls. So life has been full of challenges, them walking through, struggles of their own. I've got one that's about ready to graduate high school, and all of the unknowns that come with that, even though it's an exciting time. But, in my own life, I've had periods of great anxiety. It's something I deal with. I don't talk about it a lot, but it is something that I've had to deal with and wrestle with. And I've been to therapy for something else that, people don't talk about a whole lot. Greg and I always try to encourage people, if you need help, which we all do at different times in various ways, go seek help. And we have a wonderful friend, Dr. Looney is his name. He's a psychiatrist. He was on staff at the church we were at for a number of years, and he's become a dear friend. But many times talking with him and just figuring out, what does this look like in terms of my relationship with the Lord? What does this look like in terms of being a mom? How do I deal with this? How do I, move forward? But we've all had struggles. But yes, to say that life is perfect would be, just a big lie. Greg and I, we are together all the time. We work together. We travel together. We raise kids together. And there, 90% of the time, it's great. And then there's that 10%. It's hard, Sometimes you're on a 40-foot tour bus, and not seeing eye to eye, and you're maybe fighting over the budget or something the kids have done or not done. It's a struggle. And so, I pray that people would always, hear my heart in, gosh, I've had things that I struggle with. And I understand in the world of social media now, and with record labels, like a lot of times people see the glossy, and it's easy when we can put filter on things and, make it look this way or that way. But the reality is We struggle, no marriage is perfect, no family is perfect, no church is perfect.
Yeah.
We're all just hopefully doing the best that we can with the Lord each and every day and his grace. We're all just a bunch of sinners, making our way with his grace and his mercy in our life. And, that's what I hope people walk away with. I mean, all the other stuff is fun and it's exciting. It's great to be rewarded for your craft, whatever that is, and to be acknowledged.
Sure.
But, if it's not more than that, it's kind of just entertainment. And I think that's what sets apart what we do, is hopefully connecting with people and giving them a reason.
Yeah.
And we want to be Jesus. Like, you can go on. You may be walking through a valley of depression. You may be walking through anxiety or cancer or whatever it is, but we have hope. And I feel like that's what really sets us apart. And I know that's what's allowed me to continue and to go on in my darkest of days. Is there's a bigger picture here. There's a bigger hope. There's a bigger, answer to everything. And it's not just, what it appears to be. There's a hope of glory, and there's a man that gives me, mercy and kindness and grace every day that I don't deserve. And that is the reason to get up and keep going.
So true. And so true for all of us. I mean, listen, I know what it's like to also work in ministry with my husband and to be also doing daily life together.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, you got to do life, and you got to kind of ride that wave, and it can cause anxieties. It can cause a lot of things. And if we're not in that place of saying, Lord, you know what, I'm just laying it all out. All I can do is be me on this journey, and pray that he anoints the thing that we put our hand to do. And I believe 100% that he has anointed you both for what you do. And I just want to thank you for taking that stand and being who you are. And I want to ask you a favor. Would you guys be willing to sing a song for us? Because I think right now is a really good moment to be able to bless our viewers with a song. God is good, and he is there in the midst of our humanity and our brokenness to complete us.
Jan and I, a few years ago, being on staff at a local church as worship pastors, we began to fall in love with these songs that we were leading and didn't have a record label side, because that's where Avalon is. But we just decided, hey, if we find a song that we really connect with, we're going to go over to our friend's house and just do a live recording, just like a piano, vocals, just the two of us with a piano or an acoustic guitar. And so we've done, this is the third one we've done of that. And it is no big production. It is really stripped down, but it's just,
I love it.
Yeah, it's just something that we love doing. And so we just recorded and released this, we call it our living room version. We did it in our living room, but it's a song that we fell in love with from the very first time we heard it. And it's on our series, it's called on Spotify and all those, it's called the Organic series, Greg and Janna, but this is the song that you probably know. So if you're at home, you can sing along, called Goodness of God.
I love you, Lord. For your mercy never fails me. All my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up till I lay my head, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. All my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so good. Every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing the goodness of God. And I love your voice. You have led me through the fire in my darkest night. You are close like no other. See, I've known you as a father. Lord, I've known you as a friend. And I have lived in the goodness of God. That's why I can say that all my life you have Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. And all my life you have been faithful. Lord, all my life you have been so good, yes. With every breath that I am able, oh, I will sing of the goodness of God. Oh, yes, I will sing of the goodness of God.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, you guys. That was amazing. And I know that you sing from the heart. And that's what really matters. You know, God looks on the heart, right?
Right.
He looks on the heart less than our, it's not about our performance. It's about what's coming from our heart. And I'd love to know what's happening, what's on the horizon for Avalon, and any new things.
Yeah, we just finished our first live worship recording. So in the history of 20 years, over 20 years of Avalon music, we've never done a live worship recording. So it's always been in the studio. Everything's always been in the studio.
Wow.
So this is a live recording with probably about 40 or 50
Worshipers,
worshipers there in the studio with us. So it was in a studio there in Nashville on Music Row. And these kids and some adults as well, but man, they were. It's so beautiful to lead worship with people in the room instead of just having your headphones on and all that.
Yeah.
So it's really beautiful. That's going to come out in the next couple months. And Avalon after we actually had started our first tour in a decade in March of 2020, and we got 6 shows into our first tour in a decade, and then it shut down. And so we were so excited to be touring again. And then it went away. So we'll be starting back up again in this late spring, going back out on the road again as well with Avalon.
Wow, that's going to be powerful. And I know that the synergy that you're going to feel with everybody worshiping, I'm going to pray an anointing on that. I know it's going to be amazing. And I know that our viewers were blessed by hearing you just singing acoustically and, talk about vulnerability. I mean, just being able to be in a room just worshiping Jesus, And at the time that we're shooting this, we're in the middle of this crazy storm in Texas, and we're both experiencing it. But you know what? God is so good. And I know that I think that your best days are really ahead of you. And I think all the cumulative things that have made you is what God is going to use in this hour. We spoke to the fact that people are hurting right now, and there's so many issues, and a lot of people, I feel like some of the hidden anxieties and fears that were probably resident just under the surface of all the coping is really now being unearthed as we're kind of in a world that's shaking right now. Do you guys have any last thoughts that you want to share to encourage our viewers today as they try to maneuver and navigate through all this confusing stuff?
So last week I was dealing with waiting some results from some medical testing, and everything came out fine, but there were a couple of days that were just very difficult. I was just so overwhelmed, so anxious, almost to the point I told Greg there was a day that I just felt like I could hardly breathe. I just felt the anxiety being so heavy. And, you know, the Lord reminded me of the verse, it's where it says, I sought the Lord and he answered me and he delivered me from all of my fears. And to be aware of the fact that the God that created the universe, he hears every single thing that I tell him. He sees every tear, he knows every thought, and he answers. He not only hears me, but he answers me. And sometimes it's in the way that I want, sometimes it's in maybe a way that I didn't anticipate. But just to be aware of the fact that whatever you're going through today, that nothing is wasted, that he sees you, he knows right where you are, and he cares for you, and he's a good God. He's faithful, and he's always watching and listening.
Amen. What an encouragement. And I want to thank you guys for being with me today. You are so precious to me, and it's been fun getting to know you with this conversation today, a little more than I did. And thank you for taking the time. I know that our viewers have really enjoyed spending this time with you as well. So thanks for being here.
Thank you,
so
Brenda.
much. We loved it.
We'll have to do it again down the road. And to you, my viewers, I'm just so grateful that you've taken this time as well to be with us and to just take some time out of your busy schedule to be encouraged. You know, we often are like that cup that gets poured out and then we try to run on empty. And I hope that today's conversation about worship, about being vulnerable, about trusting Jesus and knowing that he is there in the midst of this crazy, chaotic world will be an encouragement to you to keep going, to not give up, and to never, ever lose sight of the great hope on our horizon. I thank you for joining me today, and I want to invite you again to be with us next time. I'm Brenda Crouch.